Hey guys, this is Thigh Company here. Welcome everybody to today's live stream. Today is January 19th, 2024. Welcome everyone to today's live stream. Hope you all are having a wonderful day today. And for today's live stream, we're going to be talking about a few different things, but the main story is going to be about my dad's Sped computer story or adventure stories, right? And there's kind of a lot that kind of leads up to it, but basically, here's what's been going on, right? So, growing up, basically, we had this old Windows XP computer, and this was like, kind of give you a time frame. This is like growing up early 2000s, and we, yeah, pretty much we had a like one computer. It was a Windows XP, and my dad was always working on the computer, and I pretty much remember growing up and him being on this computer, and I would be basically doing my homework next to him, and he would be watching either all kinds of movies. Like he liked to watch The Twilight Zone. This is right when Netflix first started out, because I remember he was like downloading the movies off of Netflix. This is also the time when the like Shakira's "Hips Don't Lie" when that first came out. That was a big thing, and essentially during that time I grew up, I had that's like I guess a little bit of computer training and experience before we actually started learning how to use a computer in school. And it kind of give you all an idea, we only started using the computer when I was in school, when I was in the third grade, which is kind of crazy to think about. That's how long it took back then during the early 2000s here in Charlotte. Um, which and what's sad is I was going to one of the better schools too. So I would hate to imagine what it was like for the other students. So I find that to be kind of crazy to think about nowadays, especially and everybody's kind of tech savvy. But back then, I remember my dad was on the computer. I don't know what in the world, what job he had then. I suspect either he was working as and he had a few different jobs, kind of like education slash government slash university work slash state stuff. Um, because I know he ended up getting like a NC State teacher's pay later on, but he did a bunch of different things, and uh, that's kind of like when I think the very first experience, what I remember was like my dad had gotten a boxed like CD case of a bunch of different things. Like I think the first one that the earliest ones I can remember was he would go to, I think Sam's Club was the big deal back then, and he would go to Sam's Club and he had a box of like learn foreign languages. And at that point I was in what's called a magnet program, a language magnet program, where essentially I was sent to special school to learn French. And this was from like second grade onward. So I want to say this probably was like 2002 onward is what I'm guessing. But I don't remember the exact specifics other than he bought this box, and the box had like different CDs, and one CD would be like French vocabulary, then it would be like your, the adjectives, verbs, and all that. So from there, I remember, I think the earliest like first computer games probably were like the Windows XP computer games. So that would be like your Pinball, which was like the one with the astronaut stuff. And anyhow, he was the guy who like knew how to use a computer back then, and he was basically the tech guy. And I think essentially starting out is as I learned from him. And when I think about it now, I just find it crazy how much has changed, because he was still a computer guy even when he moved out of Charlotte to Tampa, Florida. And he was still pretty much always knew how to work a computer, but he never like taught me the essentials, like how to use Microsoft Office, so like your Word, PowerPoint, Excel. And it was all from either what I learned in elementary school or just from like teaching myself. And I don't know what kind of work he did, because other than, I think he was a statistician, which is the guy who does like statistics. And I think he worked for the school system for a little bit. Then he worked for like a few other places, like uh, he kind of worked here and there for some universities, or no, colleges in Salisbury. Like I think there was like 2 or 3 he worked. I want to say Livingston College was one of them. I think he worked a little bit at Catawba, and there was another one that I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, because um, I know he was friends with a few other people that were in academics back in the day. But to get more into where it gets weird and where he goes basically sped or I guess mentally handicapped, for lack of another way to explain it, right? He sometime when he, let's see, because he moved to Tampa, was still working on a computer, doing stuff with one of my, I guess you could call it a half brother. Something involving insurance and real estate and insurance claims and a bunch of other stuff that requires essentially you to work on a computer. And then he moved to Atlanta / Johns Creek, that's pretty much right next to Atlanta, Georgia. And he was staying with my aunt aunt at the time. And I don't know what he was doing then, because somewhere around then is where he started to kind of start going sped. And then it got worse once he moved into what's the name of the place? Dakula, Georgia, which is, I want to say that's where he's at now, but I'm told that it's not exactly, because he's either there or a place called Brazelton, somewhere, in a place called Gwinnett County. That's close to Atlanta. It says 37 miles northeast of Atlanta. I have no clue how he got over there, though, but near Lawrenceville. So he moved out from Johns Creek. Yeah, because he was in a bunch of places. He was in Alpharetta, Johns Creek, Lawrenceville, Brazelton, and a place called Dakula, all kind of around Atlanta, Georgia. And eventually, like, I don't know how this happened, if he just stopped using the computer or just became rare for him to use a computer. Because I know even like in 2020, he was still using the computer without any issues. But I'm going to say, starting from Tampa, because Tampa was part of it, where he was in Johns Creek, or Atlanta. Yeah, I guess Johns Creek is the technical place where he was. And now he started getting a bunch of issues like computer viruses, and he started getting scammed. Apparently, the story goes is he started having viruses pop up on his computer, and he managed to get into one of those scams where it's like, oh, call this number for tech support. And of course, it's like a scam center, and I think his was like based in India. And apparently what happened was they had gotten his bank information, but he got them out of the bank, so they weren't able to get any of his like finances and all that. And I don't think they got any of his personal information, but essentially they locked him out of his own computer. And I don't know, it's happened at least a few times, and I guess his computer has been like fixed or repaired before. But unfortunately, this, in what I call the Indian scam, tech support scam, has happened to him probably 3 or 4 times. And unfortunately, because of that, I don't even know the last time he's been on a computer. Like, he does phone, but I don't know. He's having like issues like using the smartphone, which makes me feel like he's gotten out of being tech savvy to the like the type of population that has issues using any kind of technology, which you usually see in like certain like really older adults, sometimes elderly or senior people or senior care people. Like, for example, like my grandparents technically would be part of that group. I just find it strange though that he had a sudden like polar opposite switch. So I don't know what's going on there, but within the last few months, he always tells me that he has a computer and a laptop, and it's become clear to me that he doesn't even know what he has, because he keeps switching the names interchangeably between one another, and I can't get him to do like a video call or FaceTime video call or maybe like a WhatsApp call or something like that. And it's always been just like a regular phone call or occasionally through like FaceTime audio. But unfortunately, he doesn't know what he's doing, and he doesn't know how to use his smartphone. He claims he has an iPhone 14, and I've tried to get him to like watch tutorial videos and then record, my own tutorial or how-to videos on how to use that iPhone that he claims he has. And problem is, we don't even know if he has an iPhone. And for all we know, he may have an Android or something else, because he's used Samsung a few times when he addresses his phone, and then he used iPhone, like the term iPhone, to address his phone as well, which I know are two different operating systems. So unfortunately, he has that confusion. But what's even stranger, the last few weeks, he's claiming that, I'm building my own machine. I'm going to engineer my own machine so I can do my work. And I'm like, well, what kind of work are you trying to do? Oh, I'm doing this engineering project. Once I get more information, I'll tell you. And he likes to go off into these like vague areas of like, oh, I'm going to do this family tree project. Oh, I'm going to make a music project. Oh, I'm going to go write books. And I'm like, well, you're not doing anything concrete. And his goal in doing these projects is so that he can make money. But he's not doing anything. He doesn't have anything like planned out. There's no blueprints or business plan or anything, which probably is a big issue. But on top of that, doesn't have any sort of operation set down, and he's just what I call dabbling around. And he's also claimed that he's attending classes where he claims that people are teaching him like tech support. Turns out what's happening is he's not getting any of that, and he's going to freaking, based on the last time I talked to him, he was going to physical therapy, like basically classes where it's like, oh, move your leg up and down, up and down. I'm like, okay, that's what you're doing. But where does that turn into you getting like classes where you're in a classroom and someone's teaching you how to use a computer? Well, how does that transfer over to that? And he gets this like weird dementia going on where it's like, oh, I don't know what's going on. If they don't teach me, oh, they're going to be in trouble now. Oh, I'm going to, I'm going to have to go reach out to the administration. I'm going to tell them that, oh, I'm going to, I'm going to cause, what do you say? I'm going to cause a bunch of chaos up in here because they can't teach me how to use this darn machine here. If I can't do this, then I'm going to have to give up on everything. And I'm like, what in the world are you on about? So he keeps doing that, unfortunately. So I think he's at the point now where he's essentially forgotten how to use a computer. And he doesn't remember anything, doesn't recall anything from the past. And now he has an iPhone, which for him is like this super futuristic modern technology. It's the technology of the future is what he basically thinks he's having there in his hand. And which I do get. Completely understand that issue where it's like it's not something that's user friendly, or at least user friendly for him. So what he's been doing the last few times when using his smartphone is he starts fidgeting with it, pressing a bunch of buttons, does this and that, and quite often I have situations where I'm on call with him trying to figure out what he's trying to do, and he hangs up the phone by pressing, to end the call button. And from there, he also does weird things like starts pushing buttons, and there's like what's called an SOS function, which I don't know if I guess they do have this on Android, but I know on iPhones they certainly have this, where if you hold down a certain set of buttons or do something, it will basically go full blast and start making loud noises and starts like beeping. It's almost as if it's like a scare tactic. It's like in case you're in danger that if someone's attacking you, it'll scare that person away. Or if you're like, let's say you're in the woods and you fell down and hurt your leg or whatever, it'll make a noise where if bystanders are around, they know to come over to help. But he'll turn that alert or whatever you want to call it, that function on, and it'll just go full blast in that facility or office or wherever he's at, and he won't know how to turn it off. And he's like, "Oh, this thing made," and he would always use his weird, like what I call old timers talk. "Oh, it chased the Dickens out of here. Oh, it rustled everyone's feathers." Like he'll make these weird analogies, which is, I know what like old. It's kind of like and to give you kind of a premise of what I'm basing it on, he was born in 49 and grew up in the 50s and 60s, and lived kind of, I think, yeah, I need to figure out when he moved down to North Carolina. I'm gonna have to follow up with him on that. So that's, what do you call it? Southern talk, right? Southern colloquial speech. And unfortunately, he likes to keep using that like it's, something what he thinks is everyday talk, which is, not exactly correct. So unfortunately, that's been kind of what his recent Sped days have been on when using a computer or a smartphone, because he doesn't even. What's weird is he calls his smartphone a computer now, and I don't know why he does that. But he's doing his own thing. So unfortunately, at this point, it's like, what can you do? So yeah, if you've liked this video, make sure you subscribe, like this video, give this video a thumbs up. Comment down below what else you would like to see for future videos. And this has been Thought Company, and we'll see you all on the next live stream. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and stay tuned for the next episode. Take care, guys. Stay safe. Have fun.